And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. This is Gerald Glassford coming back at you here from, of course, the Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, we post the latest news and trends right there for you on Facebook at Pop Culture Cosmos. So go ahead and check that out today, plus all of our social media. Also, as well, go ahead and subscribe today on the Pop Culture Cosmos, and you too can get the latest information on when we go live on the air with the latest Pop Culture Cosmos, PCC Multiverse, State of Pro Wrestling, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and more. So go ahead and check it out on YouTube today when you subscribe. Plus, also as well, the Lakers Fast Break, Game Source, and Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Also, as well, you know, the best tabletop RPG action in town is, of course, Vampires and Vitae, plus Wild Beyond a Witchlight with Wizards and Wine. Go ahead and check out those great YouTube channels today and also wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, of course, we do everything for you at popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. You can always get an archive of what we're doing there. And if you could support all of that, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without our returning queen of pop culture. She is the amazing one out of Vampires and Vitae. Don't tell Robbie, her husband. But it is indeed a great person. You got to go ahead and check her out today when she's there or at Wild Beyond a Witchlight with Wizards and Wine. It is Melinda Barkhouse Ross. And Melinda, we have come now full circle a week after the knowledgeable part 1 class of Robbie Ross, Professor Robbie Ross on Warhammer 101. If you didn't get an update on that, please check out the last episode or on YouTube. How's it going, my friend?
Hey man, it's going pretty good. How are you doing?
Busy.
Yeah, I hear that.
Best word for that, because pop culture since the turn of September has been running wild, not to use the Hulk Hogan euphemism, but it has been running wild with a whole bunch of stuff going on, not only in pro wrestling, but television, with the writer's strike now ended. Hopefully the SAG strike can end soon after that. So some shows are getting up up and about. It's just amazing to see. And even Buddy Gold from Croc Radio, who's joining us in the audience now, hopefully he will go ahead and make sure that he checks out a lot of the great stuff that's going on in pop culture, because he gets it from us right there on Croc Radio each and every time out for all the stuff that we do there. But tell you what, so much is going on in video games, television, movies. They're starting to heat up, especially next week with some Taylor Swift action, my friend.
Oh man. And you know what?
I was expecting, oh man.
Robbie even just said, we should probably go to the movies soon. Do you think he'll get suspicious if I start making friendship bracelets?
Actually, I just bought some off of Amazon for my eldest daughter for her birthday party that's coming up here. And
Yeah.
she's a teenager. Well, she's going to be an adult here in just a few weeks, so she'll be 18. But she wants to celebrate it. Part of it is friendship bracelets. So you know what? If Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs is making friendship bracelets for his teammates, and if the ratings could go sky high through the roof on NFL coverage whenever she's there, absolutely, not at all, no problem by me. Next week, we are going to go more depth in detail on the huge advance for the Taylor Swift movie, out for limited time. You do need to buy your seats soon because it's already $100 million in the kitty so far. So a lot of tickets already been sold, but it's just so funny. Before we start the show, I've told you just now, and I know you've already know about already on social media about how it's blown up on the NFL between the rumored romance between Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs and Taylor Swift. But it's so funny though, because NBC, they had the prime time game, and they, with Kansas City heading into the New York area to face off against the Jets, and you see Taylor Swift and her entourage coming into the arena, or the stadium in this case. And it's just so funny because she walks in, she gets the whole prompt right underneath her, Taylor Swift, right there for you if you didn't know who that was. But in the back, Blake Lively is there. She's only
Yeah.
starting in a few movies, but directly behind her and then walking out in front of her were two nondescript bearded guys who just happened to be starring in the biggest movie of next year, Deadpool 3, and Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. I thought it was so funny they completely ignored
Yeah.
literally standing behind and walking in front of her on the program. I just thought it was hilarious. Just well, it's all Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift. Forget about Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I feel like Sophie Turner was there as well, but I could be wrong on that. I thought I saw her anyway. I know that the 2 of them have been spending some time together, but I'm not sure about going to football games, but I thought I saw her in that picture.
Alan, just wanted to give you a heads up. Yeah, last week the Writers Guild came to an agreement with the movie studios, so they are now back to work at various things, such as, like, for instance, late night talk shows, afternoon talk shows. Although the Drew Barrymore show, because those writers have revolted because of what happened with them trying to come on early and start that early, why they were striking. But I know that anything writing related is still now underway because of the strike. That part of the strike is over, but acting, that is still ongoing, and it includes video games because they recently decided to add on any video game work done by actors to be persona non grata because of what's going on with the strike. So let's hope the Screen Actors Guild strike can be done soon, because that will help us out, because the entertainment, it's going on fast and furious right now, Melinda, and there's a lot to talk about there. But at some point in time, if we don't hurry up and get this SAG strike over and everybody comes to an agreement, there could be a little bit of a problem and a little bit of a lull either later this year or early next.
Yeah, my money is on later this year. I think by the time we get to early next year, if things get straightened up, I think that things will catch up with themselves. But yeah, it's I think late this year is going to be quite dodgy again.
Yeah, I agree with you. But for now, we've got enough to talk about on today's program. It's a lot of stuff that, indeed, because you and I have a little bit of catching up to do. There's been some season enders and that I do want to go ahead and discuss, and also some season beginners that we'll discuss as well when we talk about, of course, Star Wars Ahsoka. How did it end? Also, as well, Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. And of course, what just started was Loki. I actually caught the first episode just before we went on the air, so I want to go ahead and share some general thoughts out there on it. I'm not spoilerish on that yet, so we'll go ahead and talk about that on today's show. Plus, also as well, Melinda and I are going to be talking about a series I think that you really need to check out on Netflix. It's getting extremely high reviews and a 10 on IGN. So I'm going to tell you about The Fall of the House of Usher to get you in that October mood. Plus, also as well, what's going on with the box office this weekend, and is Universal setting itself up for failure with their movie coming out this weekend? We'll talk about that. Plus, a major shift in pro wrestling or no? As we talk, Adam Copeland, formerly known as The Edge, he just jumped to AEW as well. And speaking of Edge, or someone named Edge, The Edge, as part of the U2, recently performed at the Sphere, the beautiful Sphere where we're at here in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
If on this YouTube channel, if you look below, you're going to see our largest video ever is a shot of the Sphere as it debuted on the outside. Well, in the past week, they debuted it on the inside with what everybody is raving about, the Sphere, an 18,000 seat. It's not a full arena. It's actually like an 18,000 seat, like cathedral type
Amphitheater.
view, amphitheater,
Yeah.
cathedral type deal where it rises up on one side, 18,000 people. 70% or 75% of which of the seats are haptic, so you actually will feel more of the vibration of the whole ambiance what's going on stage. Then they have the stage down on the floor in the middle, and then all around you is the digital view and the digital performance and the lights and the whole, just basically just imagine like a marquee enveloping you with all the sensory perception that, actually almost an overload of sensory just type of deals where they're throwing a whole bunch of lights, images, sounds, everything that's going on. It just got rave reviews. U2's performance there, they're doing they're doing a residency there, so they'll be having several more shows. But your thoughts on U2 at the Sphere?
Actually, a friend of mine, called Isaac. Hi, Isaac. He managed to get some tickets to go check out that U2 show the opening night,
They weren't
and
cheap, I'll tell you that from
no, they
personal
certainly weren't.
experience.
Wow, it was incredible, and $100 to park. Please,
Yeah.
come on. But all of that aside, the video that Isaac took was incredible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a ton
It
of
really
video out
was.
there.
Like,
Yeah.
it that the part where it looked like that block of writing was, like, falling down through the whole sphere on top of everybody. It was just wild, wild. I mean, worth the price of admission? I can't say for sure, but it has certainly piqued my interest, and, you know, I'm gonna wait until something more affordable comes along besides U2, before I get a chance to go check it out, but it's definitely on my list of must do things in Las Vegas. At the very bottom is the Formula One stuff because I'm over it, but the Sphere stuff, yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Well, Formula One hasn't hit Las Vegas yet. We're still
Yeah,
not even ready construction
yeah.
wise, if you've seen that area of town,
Oh
but
man,
we'll see what they can do on that. But when it comes to U2, it's funny because U2 is like, oh, that's your dad's group, or that's your mom's group. That's not anything relating to today. But then again, they have one of the best documentaries on pop culture we've seen this year.
yeah,
And also, as well, they now have one of the best live performances outside of Taylor Swift and Beyonce. Not trying to get into it. I don't want
yeah.
any of the
We're not
Beehive
going
or
there.
no, yeah, or the Swifties on me on that one. Outside of those two, they have one of the best live performances of the year based off this, what we've seen so far. Just absolutely raving. So if you get a chance, you're in the area, please go ahead and check out the Sphere here in Las Vegas. It is truly worth your wait. And if you want to see what it looks like on the outside, it's right below on our YouTube channel, Pop Culture Cosmos. It's absolutely easy to see and you'll be able to enjoy it. And I'm sure that you have a lot of questions and a lot of things to say about what's going on at the Sphere. But my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's program when it comes to Star Wars Ahsoka. Oh my gosh, Star Wars Ahsoka. It started off a little bit of Sloka, as we said before, but you know what? Unlike the Book of Sloba Fett, it actually finally, about halfway through, really hooked me in, really got me going, and it started to really get me going in a place where I like to see because, as you know, the rumors of a Star Wars movie building to this as a climax where it's the battle of Grand Admiral Thrawn versus the Mandoverse, because you'll have the Mandalorian, you have Ahsoka, you'll have all those different, I mean, you probably even Boba Fett back again. You'll have all those forces coming together in the Mandoverse, Baby Yoda, and all of that coming together to battle against the forces of Grand Admiral Thrawn. And, as we end the series, the season, excuse me, season one, because there's a season two that they were already filming when the strike happened.
Right.
Season one, it looks like that unfortunately Grand Admiral Thrawn, through the, I guess, the blind, friendship that Sabine Wren had, she decided to go ahead and make the ultimate choice to save a friend in order to endanger a galaxy. So Grand Admiral Thrawn looks like he's headed towards picking a fight with the New Republic once again. Your thoughts on Star Wars Ahsoka season one? Again, slow burn, slow build, but unlike the Book of Boba Fett, where it did have a Book of Boba Fett did have try to spruce things up with the Mandalorian trying to come in and save the day there. This time around, it seemed like they once they got over into the third and fourth episodes, they really got their groove going and they really got you hooked in.
Yeah, I know you keep saying that it was slow in the beginning. I enjoyed it from the first episode.
Oh, there you
Um,
go. See,
yeah, I really did. When I was talking, I was like, "This is a series that I am excited to watch." And you were like, "It's so slow." I was like, "Are you sure we're watching the same programming?" Because I didn't understand where you saw that it was slow.
because it
But
was just the after effects of the Clone Wars, and they just think like you're just reintroducing themselves because they were in this essence reintroducing themselves not only to the audience that had seen them before in all the Dave Filoni animated shows and series
sure.
that they were in, but they were introducing themselves to a new audience coming to Disney Plus that had not seen it before. So in order to do that work, it had to be very descriptive, and it kind of had actually to, for me, just to, it had to build. They had to explain some things. In order to explain some things, sometimes it takes a little bit more time for me, anyways, from what I saw.
Okay, well, maybe that's where the difference was because, I was going into it not familiar with the Clone Wars, I'm
Neither did
not.
I. Just I didn't see a whole lot of it. Just a couple episodes here and there, but it just never really hooked me. But it wasn't until this show that I really am like, maybe I should go check more out.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't make me wanna go and check more out, but it made me excited to catch a second season for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, though, it is very good the way it ended up with the, not a cliffhanger per se, because you already know that Grand Admiral Thrawn is in now the general universe where most of the stuff is happening. While spoilers, Star Wars has now Ahsoka and Sabine Wren supposedly trapped in the galaxy Grand Admiral Thrawn was trapped in. Now they're trapped in. So, I think everybody knows that by the time all is said and done, Ahsoka's going to find her way to where she's needed the most.
Yeah, I think isn't that the kind of the Jedi way?
Of
Isn't that
course,
just seems to
absolutely.
be what happens, right? They just
Well,
show up where
yep.
they're needed?
Well,
Mhm.
Ahsoka needed the star whales to get there in the first place. So,
Fair.
it's all about just hitching a ride with those whales. I feel sorry for those whales. They're just like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, both in the animated series and here. Just back.
Hey,
They just feel like transportation. They're like an Uber,
yeah. Well, sometimes you just stick to what
Star
you
Wars
know.
Uber. Yeah.
Yeah, you just stick to
Okay.
what you know, and you're fine.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I will be talking more in depth with this on a future episode with Jeff Sabota from the MCU's Bleeding Edge because he's already DM'd this week. I got to talk Ahsoka with you, Joe. And I said, you know what? You got it, my
Nice.
friend. Absolutely. We'll be able to sit down with you a little bit more on that. But I did enjoy ultimately my time with it. After, episode 3 on, it really started to get me involved and get me in there. I really enjoyed the chance and opportunity to see it. So hopefully you will do the same. It is not Andor level, but it's still pretty darn solid, and I do give it a really good thumbs up. It is, of course, Star Wars Ahsoka. If you've seen Star Wars Ahsoka, please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Alan saying, is Ahsoka better than Andor? Still think Mandalorian is best except last season. I'm going to say it like this. I'm going to put Star Wars Andor number 1, Alan, and I'm going to put Mandalorian season 2, the number 2, and then I'm going to put Ahsoka number 3, and then I'll go Mandalorian was no, season 1 was kind of up and down for me, but I'm going to go with that's my order right now. And then you can put in Kenobi, and then you can put in Boba Fett, and you can put in all that. So that's something that you could probably go ahead and into on that. But yeah, I'd probably say Andor's number 1. Ahsoka, I would put number 3 right now behind season 2 of The Mandalorian because season 2 of The Mandalorian was pretty darn good. That was some of the best of pop culture for that year came out as well. But there's more great stuff to talk about, my friend, besides Star Wars Ahsoka, because also this week, this is what I had envisioned for Disney Plus, Melinda. You want to know why?
Yeah.
Because I envisioned a world where they would take their two most popular entities, their two most popular IPs, Disney Plus, and put them in a week where you have one at one part of the week and another show on another part of the week. And unfortunately, it's going to only be like 1 week for us. But we did get season 2 of Marvel's Loki. Then that just started. If you're watching now, it just actually debuted here a couple hours ago. I got a chance to go ahead and check it out. I know the advanced word is not as high as season 1 so far for the first 4 episodes. People who have reviewers who have had a chance to see it, I thought it was okay, but it got a little technical. So Melinda, it's like think of it like Star Trek.
The
Whenever they do
technobabble?
the yeah the techno babble, but also the fact that when they go time travel,
Right.
you lose people,
Sure.
and you really need the actress to buy in to what they're talking about.
Right.
And I'm not sure when they read the script, Hiddleston and Kia Kwan and Owen Wilson. I'm not sure if they bought into the script 100% while they were talking about it, because it just seems like even they were kind of a little bit off on it. But just the sheer magic of it being something that Hopefully we can continue with it. And then at the very end, there is a after credit scene. So I will let you know that. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I will let
Okay,
you know
good.
there is one that I think you'll like it. But again, it's just the pop of last season. It's not there yet, but it's still for what it was. It was okay. It's just a lot of talking and a lot of conversation, a lot of technical stuff pertaining to the timeline, how it's branching out, and how it needs to. They're deciding whether or not they should try to stop it or let it just keep on flowing.
Yeah, just chalk it up to an educational episode where they've got to explain it so the audience understands what's about to happen. That just means that maybe this season with the time travel stuff is just going to get super complicated. So, trying to explain it up front is probably all that they were trying to do. Whether or not they've succeeded, I don't know. But
Well, let me ask you this: when
yeah,
you talked about Loki season one of the past, what were your thoughts on how it ended with with Sylvie, which is a variant of Loki, disposing of the original He Who Remains, which could very well lead into all that what actually did lead into all these timeline branching outs and the possibility of what you've already seen already in the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania of all these different variants of He Who Remains either coming together and deciding to go ahead and create a war amongst themselves, or even worse, amongst the people out there in the universe.
easy question.
Of course.
Yeah, super easy. Um, Look, what all that I can say for sure is that if you and I can only do it because I try to put myself in the chair of a storyteller. So like when
Mhm,
I'm trying to run a D&D game. It's not the same thing, I know, but it's the only thing I can equate it to.
mhm,
And when you have a character like that make a major play like that,
mhm.
um there has to be fracturing and there has to be complications from it and there has to be reaction to it and it has to affect the game or the show moving forward. Otherwise, why are you even telling that part of the story? So um I'm curious to see how they're going to handle it. I'm curious to see how all these different timelines are going to interact. I'm very interested in what's going to happen. Season 2 of Loki is one of the shows that I've been very much waiting for. So all I can say is I think that they have set themselves up for an awful lot of different stories. And as you said, and the one thing that I have always complimented Marvel on that I think that they are so good at doing is taking it and being able to have it kind of echo through all of the other shows, through all of the other movies as they come out. So I just think that it's a huge concept to try to wrap your gourd around. But once you get there and once you see how they handle it, I think that we're all going to kind of sign up for the ride.
Well, that's just the thing. Marvel hasn't been able to connect the dots and be able to put out the kind of quality stuff in recent weeks and months that we're kind of used to seeing.
They'll get there, I think. I think that they've stumbled, they've lost their way a little bit. It is a major reset. I mean, this phase was going to be a rough phase for them no matter how you tried to slice it. Like it was going to be a tough sell. So I think that they may be overcomplicating it a little bit with this much of a wild storyline, but I think that if they do find a way to tell the story through the movies and connect it through all of the TV shows and stuff, if they do find a way to get back to that, I think that we're in for another wild ride with Marvel.
Well, let me ask you this. How important do you think this series is to the future of Disney Plus or Disney for that matter, or Marvel for that matter? Let me explain why. Because in recent months, we have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. After initial great weekend, it actually fell off a cliff, and a lot of people have some bad feelings about it. And as far as the way that ended up, and pretty much probably ended the Ant-Man franchise for good finally on that one. Then you had Secret Invasion, who everybody like myself was really hyped for. Return of Nick Fury, kind of an interesting story and plot line, and as far as the concept of it, anyways, with the shapeshifters really getting into the possibility of what that could do. And unfortunately, that did not pan out very well amongst audiences out there. ratings and also as well critical reception is concerned. So you go into this at least, and also there's been other missteps along the way, even in 2022, a little bit of hits here and there, but for the most part, it's not been the most successful 18 months, let's say, for Marvel and Marvel Studios. Your thoughts on how important, in fact, for Disney Plus as a whole, they've lost viewership. They've talked about cutting back on Marvel and Star Wars and cutting back on content as a whole, bringing out new content and less and less. Your thoughts on how important Loki is to the future of Disney and Marvel?
I've honestly, I do think there's a lot riding on season 2 for Loki.
Mhm.
And I mean, depending on what's to come in the Loki series, I don't know if it's going to set up any of the movies or not. And I think that that's what people are going to continue to expect from Marvel because they have been so successful at it in the
Mhm.
past. And if you're having Marvel movies and shows that aren't connected to each other, then it starts to feel fragmented. Then it starts to kind of give me the same feelings that watching a DC movie gives me.
Well, it's so
I've
funny
got to,
because
I've
I'm just going to say Star Wars now seems more organized
yeah,
than Marvel at this point, especially the fact that I talked about the Mandoverse. Eventually, you will see either one film or three films with Grand Admiral Thrawn at the head being the Darth Vader Emperor type deal matched up against the New Republic and the Mandoverse because they all come together in order to go ahead and fight Grand Admiral Thrawn. So you're seeing that in a lot more organized fashion than what you used to see or what you're currently seeing from Marvel, which is actually turning the tables around from what it was 5 to 7 years ago.
yeah, and I think that I honestly I think that anybody who's trying to tell stories as complicated as the Marvel universe or Star Wars or DC, you really need to look at what Marvel did, and you need to take that stuff and apply it to what you're doing. And I think that the people with Star Wars realize that, and that's what they've started to do. Unfortunately, I think that Marvel has started to forget how to do it, and I think that they're going to start feeling that effect from it, unless they've come to their senses and they have some stuff set up, through the season of Loki.
Okay. Well, again, this is to me I think a little bit of concern as someone who watches a lot of pop culture and who understands that Disney, which also has been talked about as possible selling off its assets, to ESPN, Disney,
Yeah.
ABC, they've all been talked about parts of it being branched off. And it's just, you're hearing things for the first time that I thought I would never hear in my lifetime about how stable or unstable it is right now when it comes to Disney. So it just seems very concerning to me how much is riding on Loki from the way it was the last time around, because the last time around, Loki season one, it was a very pleasant surprise. It was really good. It's considered one of the better, if not best, Marvel television series that's out there in season one. So I think that they're in a different position now. Yeah, sure, they have a lot more subscribers than they did in season one, but the thing is, the expectations were different. The expectations now are a lot more, and now they really have to deliver.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that if they don't find a way to set something up in this season of Loki, I think that we're just going to be in an absolute rebuild phase for Marvel going into this last phase.
And that's going to be a problem if you're trying to go
Yeah.
ahead and try and rebuild everything from scratch. I still think Deadpool 3, regardless of whatever state the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in, is just going to be too good as far as, that concept because of what Ryan Reynolds has done with that character, along with Hugh Jackman. Just the fact that he'll be back on screen, well, they were on screen earlier this week, and
Yeah.
NBC didn't seem to care. But I
Right.
still think that that movie aside, the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's not writing on Loki, but it sure could be helped by Loki and what's going to happen later on with the Marvels. Those two, if they really do well with audiences, I think could really give a nice boost to Marvel that they could surely use heading into 2024.
Yeah, I think that they desperately need it, to be honest.
What are your thoughts out there on Loki? Season 2 drops right now. In fact, it dropped a couple hours ago. If you haven't checked it out already, Go ahead and check it out. And then please let us know your thoughts on Loki Season 2, Episode 1, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, 1/2 hour down, 1/2 hour to go here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, and of course, right here at the PCC Multiverse. Thanks so much for watching and listening. It's Gerald Glassford from the Pop Culture Cosmos, Lakers Fast Break, and Inside Sports Fantasy Football, along with my good friend Melinda Barkhouse Ross. Okay, I need an update. It's update time, my friend. What's going on with everything at Vampires of Vitae, and of course, Wild Beyond the Witchlight with Wizards and Wine?
All right. So, Vampires and Vitae, we're actually going to be dark this Sunday. One of our cast I know. We're super bummed, but one of our cast members has come down with COVID. So,
Yikes. Not fun.
yeah, so that means nobody in the house and nobody around for a week or so.
Uh,
So,
well,
the
my
good news,
best to them. Hope
yeah, my great news is that he's feeling a lot better and
that's good.
and is definitely on the other side of it, I think. So that's really wonderful news. But yeah, don't play around. It is still out there, very much so. But
Yes.
let me think what happened in the last episode. It's released tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow morning. I just have to get it posted. I just finished laying all the music and stuff down into it. You get a look at what Pierre Pouf's mask means and what it does. It's possibly some of the darkest stuff that we've done yet for Vampires and Vitae, which is saying something because we do tend to kind of dabble in the darker side of stuff every once in a while. I mean, we're
Really?
playing
I never
vampires.
knew that.
Yeah, we're playing vampires for heaven's sakes. When it comes to Wizards and Wine, we have closed the book on the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. We are now in the shadows of Larkovnia. It's my very first stab at doing a homebrew campaign. I am absolutely nervous about it. We just recorded our second episode last Monday. We are going to start dropping the episodes in podcast form in the new year, just to give us some time to get a few episodes built up. I'm also doing a bit more producing in the episodes, so when they're doing any kind of traveling or anything like that, I'm setting the scene with like sound effects of footsteps and horses and birds in the woods, or if they happen to be by a river or a lake, I have those kind of sound effects coming in. So I'm kind of dabbling a little bit in a soundscape as well for this season. So I have my fingers crossed that it's going to go well. Like I said, we did our prologue and we did the first episode, and it seemed to go well with everybody around the table. My fingers are crossed that they weren't just being polite and that that it is good. But the only way to find out is for people to listen to it, and you'll be able to do that as of January.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. Looking forward when you can let us know exactly when that hits, because we appreciate everything you do and always want to make sure that you are followed by so many people that love your work with tabletop RPG action. But Vampires of Vitae hopefully will come back strong next weekend, and absolutely looking forward to that indeed. But it is October, my friend.
It
And
is
October is supposed to be the scary month. I stopped by
spooky
one.
season.
I stopped by a place I used to manage for 4 different Halloween stores. Here in the Las Vegas area, we stopped by one of my daughters and I, and to see how much more they are twice the price than what I used to sell them at. They're a little taller. They don't do a whole lot more. They still have the canned dialogue, but you know what? Again, if you like those different, aesthetics as far as the type of scary things out there, of course, go for it. And obviously, we're seeing the different influences. Barbie selling well, looks like, along with a lot of other different costumes. In fact, on an upcoming episode, we usually have an annual what are the most popular and most trending Halloween costumes. So either on the multiverse or the cosmos, I got to do that, as far as get one updated for everybody out there, just to give an update on exactly what's going on. But if you are shopping for a Halloween costume, do it now.
Yeah.
Do it as soon as possible. Do it in September is basically the best advice they give to people. August, September is when you should start shopping for your Halloween costume. And that's probably the best advice I could give. But as we head into October, you're going to start seeing more and more horror movies coming out. And no, that does not count with the Taylor Swift concert movie out there, everyone.
Nice
Yes.
one.
Yeah. So I just, in case anybody's going to say that out there. But Saw has not done great. Saw X, which is the latest horror movie to come out, the latest in the long line of Saw movies to come out. Even though it wasn't given horrible ratings, it's actually given decent ratings. Unfortunately, it's not generated into that kind of action. I think late September, it's really hard to generate a consistent audience. I know the It movies have done well in September, but outside of that, it's really hard for most movies to generate the kind of audience you needed in September. The Creator, which I really was really hoping as far as a sci-fi flick. Unfortunately, that has not fallen on good times as well. But when it comes to October, we're seeing something now with this weekend with The Exorcist and The Exorcist Believer, which is coming out this weekend. It was going to be on the weekend that the Taylor Swift movie was on, but then the Taylor Swift movie was announced, and Universal said, no, 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 we're
Yeah,
going to go ahead and say bye-bye to that week. So they moved it a week up,
smart.
and it's going to be coming out to about expected to be around 25 to 35 million here domestically, probably about 65, 75 million dollars worldwide. That's okay if this was a low budget horror flick. The only catch is, Melinda,
Yeah.
Universal has reportedly, back in 2021, purchased the rights for an Exorcist trilogy of movies for $400 million.
Man, oh man.
So
And then
your thoughts on this? This is just crazy that when I heard it, I'm like, The Exorcist may not, in all the original forms, may have not done $400 million in its
yeah.
lifetime at the box office. I understand DVD sales, VHS sales from the original, that might have generated that much enthusiasm. But your thoughts when I say Universal in 2021 spent $400 million on the rights for The Exorcist in order to generate a trilogy of movies or more, similar to what you're seeing with The Conjuring, which has been such a windfall. The Conjuring has done everything right, branching off in the Conjuring movies, The Nun, all the other, they've done like everything as far as branching off and done a brilliant job each and every time. Where do you think it's going to go all wrong for The Exorcist?
Oof.
While you do that, I'm going to spin my head around.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that that
There you
just
go.
looks uncomfortable. Are you okay?
I'll need a chiropractor here after the show, but that's
Okay.
okay.
All right. All right. Um, 400 million. You know what? Universal, if you're listening, I have a vampire story to sell you if you have that
They
kind of
won't
money
have
kicking
any
around.
money for it because
Well,
of
I
the
was just gonna
bath that
say,
they're going to take.
and it would be a bargain. I'll tell you that compared to 400 million. Okay.
Too late. You should have come to
Olives.
2021.
Yeah. Well, better late than never. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think that here's a statement for you. I think that horror movie fans are the same as country music fans. Now, before you get upset, I'm not saying that country music is horrible.
Don't add
What
her.
Yeah,
As she
no.
said.
What I'm saying is that it's as far as the radio industry goes, country music fans are known to be the most loyal radio listeners that you can have. If you can attract a loyal country fan base as a country music station, you have it made. Right? I feel like the same goes for horror movie fans. If you can attract a horror movie fan to a particular series of movies, um, then you're gonna have it made. Even if they're bad, they compare it also to cold pizza. Even if it's bad, it's still kind of good. I just feel like the Exorcist name itself is going to attract people into it, even if it's a disappointment. They still got to see an Exorcist movie on the big screen. I'm sure that the effects are going to be absolutely phenomenal as far as horror movies go. But one thing that I have noticed with horror movie fans is that it's not always the big flashy effects that work. Sometimes it's just, fishing cable tied to a doorknob that you pull.
Yeah, or a jump
You know,
scare.
yeah, or a jump scare. Like I'm a sucker for a jump scare. Like, no, it's
Ah!
terrible. Yeah, it's awful. So maybe they're gonna find some kind of balance there, but I just think that's what they're banking on. They're banking on the loyalty of the IP to get them through, even if it is a stinker of a movie.
But that's the thing, though. okay,
Yeah.
we haven't even talked about the cost of the movie or anything like
Yeah.
that because the horror movies like The Conjuring worked best when they were making that would cost 10 to 15, 10 to
Yeah.
20 million dollars, 10 maybe
Yeah.
30 million dollars at the most, but they would generate 70, 80, 100, almost 200 million dollars per movie each and every time out. This has to generate that kind of amount even before the cost of the movie itself, before the cost of any advertising. Because if you spent $400 million on the rights to The Exorcist, as what's been reported on each and every time out, when you've seen these articles on there, if you're talking about that, I mean, that's just to break in. That's just the cover charge before we even talk about the cost of the movie. So already you're down $400 million before you even started. So even if this movie was flopped this weekend, they would still have to justify it by probably bringing out another Exorcist type movie, whether it's related to this one or not. Anyways, just to justify the price tag that they spent on in the first place.
Well, just because they drop big money on, like, the name Exorcist, perhaps what that means is the movie is going to be, a lower budget movie, which I think forces the effects team, to be very, very creative and do things in unexpected ways, and I think that that is what excites horror movie fans. You
Well,
know
but
for all I know about horror movies.
But let's say it's like a $30 million movie to make or $40
Sure.
million. Just, still, I mean, that's again, no matter how much it costs to make and how much if it earns a profit as far as itself, it still is a loss right now if it does only $100 million for its lifetime. If it only does that, then it's still you have to consider a loss. Doesn't matter if it turned a profit against what it originally made, especially because simply because you've spent so much money on getting the rights to that IP in the first place.
Right. Okay. So look at it this way. Perhaps we're going to do the first movie, and perhaps the first movie isn't going to do everything that they thought that the first movie is going to do.
Mhm.
So what's the best plan? What is the greatest thing that you can always do? You can always go back to the source material. There are enough terrifying stories out there of possession and poltergeists and all of that stuff that you can go and you can draw from and you can pull from. And I just think that the world is your oyster as far as writing a horror movie goes. And if you do start having to rely on the second or third movie in a trilogy to make the money, then you better have a pen and notepad with you when you go to the theater and you're going to watch the reactions of the audiences. Are they freaking out at the times when you meant to have them do that in the movie? What are they saying as they're leaving? Take it as a learning experience. Understand that you're going to have that loss, but man, oh man, you better come through big time on those second two movies.
The thing is, though, with The Exorcist, it has to generate at least three movies, if not more, in this timeline. It has to do
Yeah,
something similar to what you're seeing with The Conjuring. Conjuring is one, what, it's eighth, ninth,
something. Yeah.
something like that. So if it does that, if we're talking 10, 12 years down the line and we're on our eighth or ninth Exorcist movie from Universal Pictures, that's golden. That $400 million was well spent because that's probably means that they've generated probably a billion, billion and a half, maybe even a $2 billion in total for those 8 or 9 movies. That's fine. But again, I guess what I'm trying to say is this movie, what it does, if it flops, you are going to see the executives at Universal probably do the same thing with their heads as in the Exorcist, spinning back and forth as far as from the money that they're losing up front. It's what happens if they try to do something else in the Exorcist universe, and if that flops too, then some heads will roll for sure. And I'm using
Well,
the pun
I mean,
included on that one.
if you're making a $400 investment, see, I hadn't considered that. And if you are looking at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 movies, then, it's an investment over a long period of time. And maybe they will, over that many movies, be able to at least come close to making that back.
Well, again, but that's just the cover charge. That's still not including any cost of the films themselves. So they'd have to cover that plus
Yeah.
the cover charge in order to go ahead and make a profit. That
Yeah.
to me is,
So
if that would have been presented on my desk, I would have said, you know what? I'll make my own horror movie. Thank you. I'll talk to Bloomhouse. I'll talk to A24. I'll work with them on something because doing the $400 million for The Exorcist, eh, 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 eh.
Yeah, that was a big spend. That was a big Brinks truck that got backed up that day. That's for
Yes, yeah,
sure.
exactly. For
But
whoever owned the rights to The Exorcist that allowed him to go ahead and do it, indeed. But
yeah, I mean, good for them for managing to make that kind of a deal.
this is true. This is
Yeah.
true. But what are your thoughts out there on The Exorcist Believer? Are you going to have your head spinning to go ahead and check it out this weekend at the theaters? Or do you think it's Universal is going to be the one that's doing the spinning after they see how much money they might lose at the box office? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, we still got some more to talk about before we head on out. I do want to go ahead in this continuance of the or October, trying to get all in the mood, as far as trying to get some scary stuff that's going on or murder, as it were. So, not real life, I'm hoping out there. Please, everybody stay alive. But Follow the House of Usher debuted on Netflix as a series starring Bruce Greenwood and several others. Actually, a modern day telling of the Edgar Allan Poe dictation that has been so revered throughout the years. And this retelling is getting really high marks, including a 10 on IGN. So, your thoughts on this? I know it's not hit the number one out there, or maybe if it did, it was just for very briefly, because we always relate it to, okay, on Netflix. Oh, has it hit number one on Netflix? Okay, don't tell me unless you don't talk to me about it. Let's see, it's number one. Yeah, this is garnering some good reviews. It might be something that people might want to play closer to Halloween, but this series is getting a lot of notice, regardless of what people are talking about, because it's just pretty darn good. I'm going to be checking out, hopefully, starting this weekend. And I'm looking forward to something really good because the advance word on Follow the House of Usher is really good.
Yeah, when I saw the teaser trailer for it,
It looks
I
good.
oh man, I almost jumped through my computer screen. I was so excited about it. Truly, I mean, I'm a
I
massive
would like to
Edgar.
see that happen.
Yeah, it's hard to do, but I'm sure I could make it happen. But no, like I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. I remember discovering Edgar Allan Poe when I was like 15, and I thought that it made me, I don't know, interesting and introspective. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, since then I've just started to enjoy Edgar Allan Poe for what Edgar Allan Poe is. And yeah, The Fall of the House of Usher is one of my favorite of his stories. I'm glad that they didn't go with, one of the more I don't know, one of the more common things, I guess. Like they didn't try to do a retelling of um oh my gosh, of course. Brain leaves my body.
But as far as some of the works from Edgar Allan Poe, is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
The Raven. Yeah, the Raven.
Yes, Nevermore.
I'm just glad that they didn't try to do, a retelling of the Raven or something like that. I think that it's a good call, and I'm glad that, his work is being introduced in a new, fresh, and interesting way. I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, no, it looks like it hits the right tone.
Mhm.
With everybody sitting around that table and everybody looking upset about something, and oh, it's great. So excited.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's getting really high reviews and high marks. So if you could let us know if you're catching Follow the House of Usher on Netflix this month, please let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. And speaking of Netflix, they recently well, you might be still able to catch it. I'm not sure if it's gone off there yet, but the old Dune movie has been
Yeah.
much talked about, even possibly talked about as far as a director's cut of that. But Dune on Netflix has sparked some new interest as far as the old movie. And in a kind of bumbling move by Warner Brothers, they decided, after they went ahead and pushed back Dune 2 to February, did not decide to push back the debut of Dune on Netflix to January in order to go ahead and capitalize on that interest, especially Netflix, one of the leading streamers out there. In fact, the leading streamer out there in the entire universe. Seems kind of dumb on their part to go ahead and release it this month if you don't have the movie coming out, the sequel coming out next month. Your thoughts on Dune, which I am going to check out again for the fourth time just because on Netflix. Although it probably won't be the best resolution. I think that you probably for the best 4K, you're probably going to have to see it on the Max for that. But your thoughts on Dune hitting Netflix? Probably not exactly when WB should have put it on.
I've honestly, I will probably be watching it from now until January. In fact, Robbie and I watched it last night. So oh, it's so good. It's just ridiculous how the movie has no business being as good as it is, to be
But
honest.
as soon as I heard that it was coming on to Netflix, I would have been like, yes, awesome. Just to ramp you up for the movie coming out in early
Right.
November. Oh, wait, they pushed it back to February.
Right. But no, really, I think what it gives you, what it gives people a chance to do too, is people who have heard about it and haven't watched it, have been kind of on the fence of watching it. And they might get around to watching it in November. That kind of thing. I'm sure that there are those people out there who haven't
It's just
listened to us.
timing.
Yeah.
Timing.
I mean, it's not optimal, but I don't think that there's anything too terribly wrong with it, to be honest.
All
If the
right.
old Dune movie was getting that many views, that they decided that it was time to put the new movie out, then, I think that that's telling something about the interest of it. I don't
Well,
think that that's going to go away.
it's created a lot of actual talk as far as the old Dune, the original
Yeah.
version of Dune, David Lynch's version coming out when it did on Netflix, and it's created that kind of conversation that talk about maybe finally reviving a director's cut for us because there's so much footage out there and it was so panned, and you can tell if you watch why it was so panned and so cheesy and not well thought of at the time. But now that you can look on it with a little bit of rose colored glasses, maybe you can take it for what it's worth. I did the other I think about 2 months ago. I caught it on Netflix, and you know to me it's still the way it was back when I watched it in the 80s, but need I digress. But
Yeah.
Dune, the 2021 version, if you get a chance to see it on Netflix, if you've not seen it yet, I highly, highly recommend it because it is literally one of the best movies of this decade. And I am so excited to see what happens in Dune Part 2. That now that it's been pushed back to February, it just makes it, oh, so much more tantalizing. But, again, it is coming out on Netflix, so at least going to a larger audience. So hopefully they'll be more aware of it when it finally comes out in February.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have been on the fence over watching it, please do Gerald and I a favor and go ahead and just watch it. Just make
Absolutely.
yourself some snacks, plunk yourself down on the couch with a little blankie, and go ahead and watch the movie. You're not going to regret it. It's not a waste of your time. I promise you.
And then let us know what you think about
Yeah.
Dune, the old version versus the new version. And are you now excited after watching it on Netflix? If you're excited for the sequel coming up in February, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, just a couple other issues and news and notes before we head on out. Only Murders in the Building. Speaking of mid, ended its season 3 this past week on Hulu. Didn't get the kind of notoriety that the previous two seasons had, even though it had Paul Rudd and also swell, some great actors and actresses, and just Meryl Streep was a major part of this season as well. And my gosh, it didn't get the kind of love, I think, but still enough audience love to generate a season 4 as Hulu on the week that the actual season finales come out announced that there would be a season 4 in play, and of course they set it up for such at the very end. I won't tell who did it because I did get a chance to see it, but your thoughts on Only Murders in the Building getting a season 4?
I think it's great news. I also think that it's great news for Martin Short.
Yes. Well, he was a little bit under the gun by one particular writer. Wrote an article, I think, on one of the major publications about how his shtick is talked. He just really talked a lot bad about his legacy and about how his shtick never appealed to him, and then a lot of actors and actresses had to come to Martin Short's defense because, and Martin Short has a stick. I compare it to Ryan Reynolds. You either
Right.
like his shtick or you don't. And
Yeah.
if you don't, it's just it's not going to be funny for you. And
Yeah.
if it is, it's going to be appealing to you. So take it for what it's worth. I thought it's entertaining. Again, I didn't mind it. I liked the season overall. It was okay for me. It wasn't quite as high notes as season one and season two, but you know what? Having Meryl Streep and Paul Rudd there just thought made for an actually pretty good time for me. But hopefully, season four will continue the good notes going forward. But we'll wait and see. But before we head on out, my friend, a couple last things. Diablo 4, a lot of the coming in the future. You know, Diablo 4 has had a good start, kind of got some rough patches along the way with some updates, but the creators and developers are talking about revamping the ending for Diablo 4. Your thoughts on that before we head on out?
That's cool. I haven't played the ending yet because I can't find the time to sit down to play the video game.
Mm-hmm.
How imagine my frustration. Oh, so upsetting when it like another week goes by and I'm like, man, I didn't even play my game this week. It gets me very upset. But I finally got my character from 28 to 31. So I'm making some progress. Some of the quests are in play, all that kind of stuff. But no, I'm nowhere near where I wanted to be at this point in terms of playing the game. So if they revamp the ending, fantastic. It's I'm not going to know any different. So I'm all for it. I'm sure that people who have played the game though, it may intrigue some folks.
We'll see what happens, my friend. But
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to go on with Diablo 4, especially when that acquisition and merger goes through with
Yeah.
Activision Blizzard. I would love for it to appear as part of the Xbox Games Pass, which I have conveniently signed up for as I'm trying to even jump into Starfield, and I played a little bit of Wolfenstein, played a little bit of some other stuff as well. So definitely would love to have that added to the mix on Xbox Games Pass. So hopefully that will be the case before the end of the year, once the merger is complete, which is looking more and more like it. So would love to see that. But what are your thoughts on Diablo 4? Are you still playing it? And are you happy about the possibility of a new ending for Diablo 4? Let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Last news and notes. This past weekend, I had on John Orlando. It was our monthly State of Pro Wrestling. We talked about a
Okay.
lot of various things about WWE, where they stand after the acquisition and merger between them, Endeavor, and UFC, and now that happy love fest. Now that Endeavor owns the company and not Vince McMahon. We also talked about AEW after their 80,000 seat event, big extravaganza in London and All In. We talked about that at length about their ratings and numbers ever since. Well, AEW in recent times might just be getting a boost because about 2 hours after we went off the air, Adam Copeland, aka Edge from WWE, his contract expired on the 1st. And wouldn't you know it, he ended up decided not to go ahead and extend himself with the WWE, even though he admitted that there was a contract offer available to him. He decided to jump into the world of AEW and appeared on the Wrestle Dream pay-per-view this past weekend. So I want to hear your thoughts on this, my friend. Edge is a name that has at times main evented some of the largest venues and some of the largest cards and most important cards the past 2 decades, outside of his neck injury that he was out on the shelf for quite a bit, but he did come back and he was actually main evented at WrestleMania here and there, and he's one of the biggest names of this century. Your thoughts on Adam Copeland jumping to AEW?
I think that it was a smart move. I think that the everything that I saw was all bad press about the merger and the amount of wrestlers that were let go, people who are just no longer with the company, and all of those people now need a home, and you have this new up and coming. Well, sorry, not new and up and coming, but you do have, this in general speaking, kind of new kid on the block with the AEW, and I can only see that helping their cause, you know?
Absolutely. And they do need it after what happened with CM Punk and his departure from
Yeah.
AEW. You lose the main eventer, John Moxley, suffering a concussion. He has been on the shelf for a little while. They have Adam Cole, who came back over from WWE. He unfortunately broke his ankle in 3 places in real life and unfortunately is
Ugh.
on the shelf himself. So pretty much right now with if you want to mix in Brian Danielson, outside of that, it is just MJF at the top of the card. So trying to build more top of the card wrestlers right now seems to be a priority for AEW.
Yeah, and I, obviously they're aware of that, and I'm sure that that's one of the things that they're probably working the hardest on. So, I just think that it's really fun to be the underdog. Let's put it
We'll
that way.
we'll see what happens, my friend. But what are your thoughts with Adam Copeland, aka Edge, who's now the rated R superstar, which is kind of the thing that he was known for in WWE. He was able to get that moniker and transferred over to AEW. What are your thoughts on Adam Copeland jumping to AEW from the WWE? Share us your thoughts, Pop Culture Cosmos, and yeah.com. Well, my friend, you knocked it out of the park once again. You superstar among all superstars here in the world of pop culture. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yeah, I'm interested to see actually. Well, I don't know that I'll see it, but I'm interested to follow along with what's going to happen with the Exorcist stuff.
Well,
That was an interesting conversation. I will be following that.
come on. Hold on. I'm going to spin my
Yeah.
head around just for you before we head
Okay.
on.
All right. No pea soup though. Hold the pea soup.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh God, that's
I won't be
disturbing.
doing the vomiting thing. That's
Yeah,
just
don't do
something I
that.
can't. I cannot do that on
Yeah.
command.
Yeah,
And
don't
Max
do
von
that.
Sydow, bless his soul, he is unfortunately no longer with us to go ahead
Yeah.
and just exercise it from me. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. I actually had a good lunch. I want to keep it down. So we'll leave it at that.
Right.
So for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great